Hey, welcome back to the cooking show. I'm that guy what cooks. And I've been so busy making other videos, I kind of forgot how to cook. Take for example, I was making hardtack, and it's a simple recipe really. It's just 2 parts flour to 1 part water with a little bit of salt, and you cook it until it's so dry you couldn't possibly take a bite out of it. They turned out okay, but you can see the problem. There's still a little bit of moisture in them, so they crack open real nicely, and you can kind of chew them. So since we've established that I can't even cook flour and water properly, we're gonna make something a little bit easier. Lembas. Our recipe comes from the unofficial Lord of the Rings cookbook. You know it's unofficial because it says so. As we've all heard by now, Lembas is elven bread that a mythical bread in the Lord of the Rings mythos created by the elves, and 1 bite will nourish you for like a day. It's most likely based off of hardtack because Jolkin Rolkin Rolkin Tolkien had that when he was in World War I. And as we've already established, hardtack is literally just flour and water cooked to be impossible to eat so it lasts forever. So of course, the Lembas in this cookbook seems to be more like a pie dough or a shortbread that will inevitably spoil. Well, with that in mind, let's get to making this lembas. For this recipe, we'll need 1½ cups flour, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 stick of butter, 1/3 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1/4 cup heavy cream, and 4 small banana leaves. The banana leaves are just for storage, and I'm not going to use that because I have this great new invention called Tupperware. We already know this is a quality recipe because it already includes salt and cinnamon. So let's get started. Step number 1, we're going to preheat the oven to 425. I'm sorry I didn't get any footage of that. Once that's done, we're going to add our flour, baking powder, and salt into this bowl. Once that's all mixed, we're going to cut our butter into pieces and add them into the mixture. The book does not specify how big these pieces are meant to be, so I'm going to assume the size of peas, or maybe slightly smaller, who knows. I feel like I should be filling all this dead air with something interesting to say, but I don't have anything interesting to say. Once that's mixed well, whatever well looks like, we're going to add the cinnamon, sugar, and vanilla. Finally, we add the cream and we mix until I assume we have a dough of some kind. Jesus Christ, what was with all that stuttering? So this stuff is allegedly supposed to come together in a dough of some kind. And I feel like I'm running into the same issue I always run into when I'm making a pie crust, wherein I feel like it is way too dry. It's kind of coming together. Once we have this into a dough, we're going to dust our work surface with some flour and roll this out into a square that is as thick as a finger. Okay. I don't think I've been keeping count of what steps we're on, so we'll just call this step 5. And we're going to cut this into 4 squares. You'll notice right away that these aren't perfectly even squares, but maybe get off my back. Also going to give them an X indentation. We will add them to our parchmented baking sheet. And now I will put them in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. See you in 12 to 15 minutes. So it's 12 minutes later, and I totally didn't burn one of them. So here's what they look like. After they come out of the oven, they're meant to cool for 30 minutes, so I will see you in 30 minutes. So here's our final product. As you can see, it looks like garbage because I didn't care to put any effort into this. The burnt one here kind of fell apart when I was transferring it onto the rack. But enough excuses, let's see how they taste. Okay, so the X lines work as no, they don't. Maybe if I cut them deeper, they would have worked as advertised. All right, happy Lord of the Rings. Yeah, this lembas is definitely somewhere between pie crust and shortbread. It's slightly sweet and it's not bad, it's just kind of, for a dessert, it's mediocre. Maybe that's the point of it, but why would you put a mediocre dessert in your cookbook? Zhuzh it up a little, just give me like an almond shortbread recipe, or just make it a meme and do the hardtack. Ow. My complaints aside, I am still going to eat some of this, but that's just because I made it. I doubt I'll be making it again. For those of you interested, I'd suggest looking up a recipe for some vanilla cookies or some almond shortbread. You can probably also find savory recipes for lembas. I saw one that had honey and basil, and I was gonna make that, but I didn't really feel like it. That's about all I have to say. Goodbye.